You won't believe what happened when I finally found my dream spot by the lake only to have my peaceful plans shattered by a neighbor who seemed determined to turn everything upside down. It all started when I bought a quiet lake lot, ready to build a little escape from the everyday chaos. But soon, I realized this wasn't just about land or property. It was about a heated clash with someone who thought they owned more than just the neighborhood rules. The main trouble began with the HOA and one woman who I'm calling the HOA Karen. She's not your average neighbor. She's the kind who's quick to call the cops, slow to listen, and absolutely convinced that her family's interests come before anyone else's. Her son, she claims, had liked the lake lot first, long before I even set eyes on it. And that became her reason to call 911 and try to get me evicted, just like that. Imagine getting a call from law enforcement telling you to leave your own property because someone else says it belongs to them. It felt like a scene straight out of a drama series. But this was real life. This story isn't just about property disputes or HOA drama. It's about how far people will go to protect what they think is theirs and what happens when neighbors become adversaries. There's tension, confusion, and a real question about fairness and rights in the mix. But what happened next? Did I get forced off my lake lot? Was the police involved? And how did the HOA Karen's claims hold up? Stick around because the next part will reveal the shocking twists that unfolded after that unexpected 911 call. Trust me, you don't want to miss this. To understand how things got so complicated, you need to know a bit more about the neighborhood and the people involved. This lakeside community is supposed to be peaceful, a place where families come to relax and enjoy nature. The HOA was created to keep things orderly, but sometimes those rules end up creating more problems than they solve. At first, I thought the HOA would be helpful, making sure everyone respected property lines and shared the space fairly. But soon, I realized there was a lot more going on beneath the surface. The woman I call Karen wasn't just a concerned neighbor. She seemed to have a personal agenda. Her son had been talking about the lake lot for months, and according to her, he had some kind of informal claim on it. Nothing official, no paperwork, just a strong belief that because he liked the spot, first, no one else had the right to be there. When I bought the lot, apparently, that was the moment everything changed. What started as friendly chats turned cold and then hostile. I tried to talk to her, to explain that I followed all the rules and bought the property legally. But she wasn't interested in hearing me out. Instead, she escalated things by involving the HOA board, sending messages, and finally, making that call to 911. It felt like a power move designed to intimidate me, to make me doubt my own right to be there. Meanwhile, other neighbors started taking sides, whispering about who was right or wrong, but no one really knew the full story. The tension grew with every day I spent at the lot. Was this really about a first like? Or was there something deeper, something more about control, family, and old grudges? The whole situation left me wondering, what would happen next, and how far would this HOA Karen go to get her way? The next part dives deeper into what unfolded after the police showed up and the surprising reactions from everyone involved. Stay tuned. When the police finally arrived, the situation felt even more surreal. I stood there on my own property, watching as officers talked quietly with the HOA Karen and her son, trying to understand what had really happened. From my perspective, I was just trying to enjoy a peaceful moment by the lake on a lot I had legally purchased. But for them, it seemed like a neighborhood dispute gone too far. The officers listened carefully, but they made it clear they couldn't simply evict me without a proper court order or legal proof. Still, the fact that someone called 911 to try to remove me from my own land weighed heavily on my mind. It was a clear sign that this wasn't just about a simple property disagreement. It was personal. I couldn't help but wonder what the HOA's role was behind the scenes. Were they siding with the Karen family because of old alliances or unspoken rules? The HOA meetings, I had heard, could get pretty intense, and politics there seemed as tricky as anywhere else. Meanwhile, the HOA Karen's son wasn't just sitting back quietly. He was talking to other neighbors, painting a picture where I was the outsider, the one causing trouble. It felt like a campaign to turn the community against me, which only added to the pressure. Some neighbors who had been friendly before started acting distant, caught between loyalty to the HOA and their own sense of fairness. Behind all this, a deeper story started to emerge. It wasn't just about who liked the lake lot first. It was about family pride, neighborhood control, and maybe even a hidden history between the HOA Karen's family and others in the community. Rumors floated about past disputes and long-standing tensions, making the conflict feel like it was part of something much bigger. As the days passed, the uncertainty grew. Would the HOA step in officially? Would legal action be taken? Or would this all blow over quietly? The tension in the air was thick, and I knew this was far from over. The next chapter would reveal more surprising twists, and I was ready to share every moment with you. Days passed, and the tension in the neighborhood grew thicker with every whispered conversation and sideways glance. The HOA Karen wasn't backing down. In fact, she seemed more determined than ever to push me off that lake lot. I started noticing strange things. My mailbox had been tampered with, and a few neighbors who once smiled now avoided eye contact. It felt like I was being slowly isolated, as if simply owning that piece of land had made me a target. The HOA meetings became a battleground. I showed up, hoping to clear the air and find some common ground, but instead I was met with cold stares and pointed accusations. The HOA Karen and her supporters painted me as the troublemaker, the outsider who didn't belong. It was like a script being replayed, only this time I was the one on trial. Every word they said was meant to pressure me, to make me question if staying was even worth it. At the same time, the calls to local authorities didn't stop. Another unexpected 911 call arrived, this time accusing me of trespassing or worse, despite my ownership documents. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, where no matter what I did, I couldn't prove my right to be there. The fear of being forcibly removed was real and constantly looming. What made it worse was the uncertainty about the HOA's role. Were they just letting this happen? Or were they behind the scenes encouraging the Karen family's push to control the lake lot? The lines between neighborly disagreement and legal battle blurred fast, and I was stuck in the middle. Every day brought a new challenge, a new test of patience and resolve. I wondered how far the HOA Karen would go. Would the police come back? Would the HOA board finally take sides? Or was there something even bigger waiting to explode? The answers felt just out of reach, and the suspense was unbearable. I knew the next moments would be crucial, and I was ready to face whatever came next, because this story wasn't over yet. The most intense chapter was just about to begin. Just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, a new twist changed everything. One afternoon, as I was checking the lot, I noticed a fresh sign planted near the shoreline, official-looking notice claiming the property was under dispute, with a legal injunction supposedly filed by the HOA Karen's family. My heart sank. This wasn't just a neighborhood disagreement anymore. It had turned into a full-blown legal battle that I hadn't even been properly informed about. The notice said that until the matter was resolved in court, I was not allowed to build or make any changes on the lot. Suddenly, my dream of peaceful lakeside living felt further away than ever. To make matters worse, I learned through a neighbor that the HOA board had quietly held a meeting without inviting me to discuss the issue. Rumor was they were considering strict penalties if I didn't back down. It felt like the HOA and the Karen family had teamed up to squeeze me out, using every tool in their arsenal. I started questioning if this was really about who liked it first, or if something more personal was at play. Then, out of nowhere, the HOA Karen's son showed up at the lot, claiming he wanted to talk things through. But instead of a peaceful conversation, it quickly turned into a tense standoff. He insisted that he had been visiting the lot for years with his family and that my presence was an intrusion. His tone was aggressive, and his presence made it clear this wasn't just about property, was a power play with the HOA's legal threats. The police calls, and now this direct confrontation. The pressure was mounting like never before. It felt like the entire community was watching, waiting to see if I'd fold or fight back. And honestly, I wasn't sure which way this was going. To end, the stakes had never been higher, and the next moments would decide everything. Would I lose the lake lot to the HOA Karen and her family's claims? Or was there a way to stand my ground? The story was reaching its boiling point, and you won't believe what happened next. The tension finally reached a breaking point one afternoon when the HOA Karen's son returned. This time with a group of neighbors in tow. They came to the lake lot, cameras ready, demanding I leave immediately. I stood my ground, knowing I had the legal papers proving my ownership, but the pressure was overwhelming. Just as things seemed about to spiral out of control, the HOA board president unexpectedly showed up. To everyone's surprise, she revealed that the injunction notice was a mistake in error filed by the HOA's legal team without proper verification. The board hadn't approved it, and they had no legal grounds to block my ownership or building plans. The HOA Karen's son's confident stance faltered as the truth came out. The president made it clear that while they hoped for neighbors to get along, no one could claim property without proof. The board was stepping back and would not support any eviction attempts based on unfounded claims. Relief washed over me, but the drama wasn't quite over. Just as things started to calm down, the HOA Karen herself appeared, calm but serious. She confessed that her son had been misguided. There was no prior claim on the lot, only a family wish that turned into a misunderstanding. She apologized for the chaos, saying she never wanted it to escalate like this, but felt she had to protect her family's interests. Then came the final twist. As we talked, a neighbor approached and quietly handed me a letter they had found tucked away in the HOA archives, a forgotten deed from decades ago that showed a shared easement on the lake shore. It complicated ownership rights more than anyone realized. The HOA Karen's family and I might actually have to work together to figure this out. The conflict wasn't fully resolved, but suddenly it felt less like a battle and more like a complicated story of neighbors forced to find common ground. What happens next? Well, that's a story for another time. After the unexpected discovery of the old deed, everything shifted. What had started as a fierce battle over the lake lot turned into a chance for cooperation. The HOA Karen's family and I realized that this wasn't just about who owned what, but how to share a space that meant a lot to both of us. We agreed to sit down together, with the HOA board mediating, to figure out a fair plan for the shared easement. It wasn't easy. There were still hard feelings and lots of questions, but for the first time, we were working toward a solution instead of fighting. In the weeks that followed, the community also began to heal. Some neighbors who had been on the sidelines stepped in to help, offering ideas and support to keep the peace. The HOA made changes to its communication process, promising more transparency so no one else would feel left out or unfairly targeted. It was a reminder that even in the toughest disputes, a willingness to listen and compromise can make all the difference. Looking back, this whole experience taught me a lot about patience and standing up for what's right, while also recognizing that sometimes the story is more complicated than it seems. Property disputes can quickly turn personal, especially in small communities where everyone knows each other. But at the heart of it, it's about respect for the land, for neighbors, and for the rules that keep us all connected. So if you ever find yourself in a tough situation like this, remember, don't rush to judgment, keep your cool, and be open to dialogue. Sometimes the biggest conflicts can lead to the strongest bonds. Thanks for watching and following this journey with me. If you enjoyed this story about HOA drama, lake lot battles, and neighborly disputes, make sure to like and subscribe for more real-life stories that matter. Until next time, take care.